The first time her fingers brushed my cheek, it felt like the universe paused, like every star, every pulse of light in that strange sky above us held its breath just to witness that moment. Her skin shimmered with faint blue luminescence, soft as moonlit water, and when she whispered my name, my Earth name, it sounded like she had memorized it long before she ever spoke it aloud. I didn't know her then, not really. I didn't know why she trembled when she touched me, or why her eyes glowed brighter when I whispered back. All I knew was this: if destiny had hands, they were guiding hers toward me. And whatever path she was about to pull me into, I was already falling. Hours earlier, I had no idea a moment like that could even exist. I had been on Earth, in the middle of a night so ordinary it barely deserved remembering. The kind of night where the streets were empty, where the cold was a little too sharp, and where a man like me, Elias Ward, was just trying to outrun the weight of his own thoughts. My life had become a quiet echo after the kind of personal loss that leaves a permanent shadow on every corner of a home. I walked the same route every night, hands shoved in my jacket pockets, counting the seconds until sleep would come and mercy would let me forget. But that night, the sky split open. At first I thought it was an aurora, a rare, beautiful surprise. A ribbon of green and violet shimmered across the clouds, but then the colors twisted, spiraled, and folded into themselves in a way no meteorologist on Earth had ever seen. The air felt charged, tugged by something invisible. And before I could even take a step back, the ground vanished beneath me. It wasn't falling. It wasn't floating. It was like being pulled through a pulse of light, a heartbeat of the universe, too fast to comprehend and too slow to forget. When I woke, the world around me was glowing. A ceiling of crystalline vines hung over me, each one pulsing with soft blue patterns that reminded me of veins lit from within. The floor beneath me was warm, smooth, almost alive. I tried to stand, but the moment I moved, a dozen shapes emerged from the darkness around the chamber, tall, elegant figures with subtle luminescent markings running along their skin. Humanoid, but not human. Too still, too graceful, too silent. And their eyes were impossible to look away from. One of them stepped forward. Her presence drew the light toward her as if the room itself responded to her arrival. Silver-white hair fell over her shoulders like liquid metal, and the luminous patterns on her skin shifted gently with her breath. Her expression was calm, unreadable, yet there was a curiosity in her gaze that softened the coldness of the room. She spoke without moving her lips. Not words. Sensations. Images. Meaning delivered directly into my mind. I panicked, who wouldn't? I stumbled backwards until my spine hit a curved wall that flexed like warm stone. She raised a hand, gentle, almost apologetic, and the room dimmed as if obeying her. "I am Serenia," the voice inside my mind said, smooth and soothing. "You are safe." Safe. My heart felt like it was trying to break out of my chest. More figures approached, an entire council, it seemed. Their faces were unreadable, but something about the way they stood around me felt less like a welcome and more like an evaluation. Their collective presence pressed on my thoughts like a soft weight. Then Serenia stepped closer, and the pressure eased. She was different. Her voice didn't feel invasive. It felt warm. Like a thought I trusted without understanding why. "You are Elias Ward of Earth," she said. "You were brought here because your existence aligns with a probability we can no longer ignore." I stared at her. "Brought here? By who? By you?" "Yes," she answered simply. "By necessity." I demanded answers, asked where I was, what they wanted, how I could go home, but the council seemed to speak only in riddles, in concepts too large and ancient to grasp. Serenia watched me closely, studying me with a mixture of curiosity and something else I couldn't identify. She guided me through the facility, past windows that looked out at a world unlike any I had ever imagined. 2 moons hung in a lavender sky. Forests glowed like drifting stardust. Waterfalls shimmered with light, not just reflection. The air tasted clean, almost sweet. "It is called Aurelian," Serenia said. "Our world. Our burden." The way she spoke carried a sadness she didn't show on her face. I asked her why I was there, why me. She hesitated then, for the first time since I met her. Her glowing markings dimmed slightly, like her emotions were affecting the light. Our species is dying, she finally said. A genetic collapse we cannot reverse alone. You are one of the few compatible beings capable of helping us survive what is coming. Compatible? I repeated. You mean? Yes, she said softly, almost gently. For repopulation. There was no shame in her words. No embarrassment. But the silence that followed pressed down on my chest. I stepped away from her, overwhelmed, furious, terrified. So you abducted me? I said. You ripped me from my life, because you need me to. To save us, Serenia whispered, and for a flicker of a moment, the emotion in her voice didn't sound alien at all. I wanted to run. Every instinct told me to. But every hallway curved, every door responded only to their touch, and every corner of this world reminded me how impossibly far from Earth I truly was. That night, if it was night on this planet, I tried anyway. I made it as far as a balcony overlooking the glowing forest. The world below pulsed like a heartbeat, beautiful and terrifying at once. I didn't know where I'd go, but I couldn't stay. That's when Serenia appeared behind me. She wasn't angry. She wasn't cold. She just looked conflicted. If you run tonight, she said quietly, her voice carrying the faintest tremor, you will die. But if you stay, everything you believe about yourself will change. The wind lifted her silver hair, and for the first time, she looked almost human in her uncertainty. And in that moment, I realized something that terrified me even more than being trapped on a dying alien world. I believed her. I didn't sleep after Serenia stopped me on that balcony. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the shock of hearing an alien's voice tremble for the first time. Or maybe it was the way she looked at me, not as a subject, not as a resource, but as if she was afraid for me, personally. It was the kind of fear you feel only for someone whose existence matters to you. And that made no sense. Not yet. She escorted me back to the living quarters they had prepared for me. The room wasn't a prison cell, but it wasn't comforting either. Soft bioluminescent walls hummed gently like a heartbeat. A bed shaped itself to my body when I sat down. I didn't lie down, I just stared at my hands, trying to understand how my life had split in two so violently. When the door closed, I expected silence. Instead, I heard something I hadn't heard since Earth, Serenia breathing on the other side. Slow. Uneven. She stayed there for a long moment before finally walking away. In the morning, if morning existed here, the ceiling shifted colors, soft purples fading into gentle golds. Serenia entered with a calm expression that didn't match the storm I'd seen in her the night before. You must eat, she said, placing a dish on a small floating table. The food looked like glowing fruit shaped from glass. I stared at it skeptically. I'm not hungry. Her eyes flickered with faint light. Humans weaken quickly. Our biology compensates differently. I'm not trying to weaken myself, I said. I just don't know what I am to you people. A prisoner? A tool? Her gaze fell to the floor, and for the first time, she didn't hide her reaction. I do not want you to feel that way. I wondered if she practiced sounding gentle, or if gentleness in her species was rare enough to feel dangerous. Either way, it worked. I took a bite. The fruit melted like warmth on my tongue, strangely familiar, almost nostalgic. Serenia watched me silently, her eyes tracing every movement, not with hunger or expectation, but with fascination. As if I were an answer to a question she had asked her entire life. What do you want from me, Serenia? I finally said. She hesitated. Her markings dimmed, then brightened, an emotional tell I was only just beginning to understand. Our world is collapsing, she said quietly. Our species has lost the ability to grow. Our essential biological patterns deteriorate. We tried to repair them, but our efforts failed. Her voice softened further. We discovered that certain ancient genetic threads shared with your species might restore what we lost. And you want me to help with that, I said. She nodded. Not by force. By choice. I laughed bitterly. Choice? You kidnapped me. Serenia stepped closer, her expression tightening with something like pain. If we had not taken you, another world would have. You are rare, Elias. More rare than you understand. I stood up, unable to stay still. And you expect me to just accept all this? No, she said. I expect you to understand it slowly. With me. There was something in those last two words, with me, that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't a command. It wasn't a demand. It sounded almost like a plea. And that frightened me more than anything else. What was she? A scientist? A leader? A messenger? Or something else entirely? Over the next days, Serenia became my guide by assignment, she claimed, though her attention lingered longer than duty alone required. She walked with me through massive crystalline structures that shimmered with soft light, explaining their world's history with clinical precision. But every so often, her voice would slip. A crack in her composure. A flicker of emotion she didn't understand how to hide. One afternoon, she brought me to an archive chamber. The room glowed with thousands of floating spheres, each holding images, memories, records. These contain the history of our collapse, she said softly. You should know the truth. She touched one sphere, and it expanded into a hovering vision, an Aurelian city bathed in brilliance, then slowly fading, motion by motion, like watching a star die. Buildings dimmed. Plants withered. Aurelians looked weaker, their glow fading from their skin. We lost our capacity for biological renewal, Serenia said. Our bodies endure centuries, but our future grows shorter every cycle. I watched her carefully. Her voice sounded steady, but her hands trembled. You said emotion is rare among your kind, I said. Is that why? Because your species changed? Her eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw a vulnerability so human it nearly unmade me. Our ancestors learned to suppress emotion to extend their lifespan. But something unexpected happened. They suppressed something essential. Memory of how to connect. To bond. To feel. And you? I whispered. She looked away. Malfunction. I stepped closer. Serenia, that's not a malfunction. You are wrong, she said, though her voice wavered. My reactions to you are inconsistent. Illogical. They undermine my duty. You mean, you feel something? She didn't answer. But the light along her skin pulsed faster, betraying her. The more time we spent together, the more the air between us shifted, changed, from cold curiosity to something warmer, heavier, impossible to describe. Every time she touched a control panel near me, the glow around her fingertips brightened. Every time I spoke, her gaze lingered a little too long. At night, I began having dreams. Dreams of walking beside Serenia through strange forests. Dreams of her reaching for me. Dreams where I felt her emotions, not through telepathy, but through something deeper, a connection that shouldn't have existed. When I told her, she froze, genuinely afraid for the first time. You should not be dreaming of me, she whispered. That is not how our minds interact. Then how do you explain it? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she said something that chilled me. I believe, you are remembering something that has not happened yet. The days blurred after that, learning, questioning, resisting, understanding. Each time Serenia looked at me, her composure slipped further. And each time she spoke my name, something inside me shifted, like gravity was changing direction. But I didn't realize how deeply she had changed until the night I overheard the council. They didn't know I was nearby. Their voices vibrated through the crystalline walls. The human destabilizes her, one elder said. Her emotions compromise the protocol. It has begun, another warned. He is triggering dormant impulses. The integration must proceed before she is lost. And then, Serenia must not know. My heart pounded. What were they hiding? What was the integration protocol? When I stepped back, a soft gasp escaped behind me. I turned. Serenia stood there, her face pale, her markings flickering in rapid, distressed pulses. She had heard every word. Elias, she whispered, eyes full of fear and something painfully fragile. They have decided. The integration protocol begins tomorrow. Her voice shook. And it will change everything you are. The word integration echoed through my mind long after Serenia said it. I didn't know what frightened me more, the idea of something changing me without my consent, or the fear in her eyes when she said it. Aurelians didn't usually show emotion. They didn't quiver. They didn't fold their hands together like they had to steady themselves. But Serenia did, and every trembling breath she took left a mark I couldn't ignore. She guided me away from the council chambers quickly, moving faster than I'd ever seen her move. Her silver-white hair drifted behind her, glowing faintly with each step. She didn't speak until the doors of a secluded chamber closed behind us. "They intend to rewrite you," she said finally. "To meld your genetics into Aurelian form. To make you compliant. To make you one of us." My stomach dropped. "Rewrite me? Serenia, you said this was voluntary." "It was supposed to be," she whispered. "Until your presence began affecting me." I took a slow step toward her. "Affecting you how?" Her chest rose in a shaky breath. "I feel drawn to you. I do not understand it. I should not experience it. And the council fears it compromises the mission." "What mission?" I asked. "What aren't you telling me?" She looked up at me, and for a moment, she didn't seem alien at all, she seemed heartbreakingly human. "We were not searching for many humans," she said softly. "We were searching for you." The room seemed to tilt. "For me? Why?" She hesitated. Then she reached toward one of the glowing memory spheres on the wall. When she touched it, the chamber filled with shimmering holographic light visions of ancient Aurelians traveling through star systems, scanning planets, cataloging genetic structures. One image seized my attention: Earth. "Thousands of years ago. My ancestors visited your world," Serenia whispered. "They found early humans, including one line that carried a dormant resonance compatible with our biostructure." I stepped closer to the projection. "My line?" Serenia nodded. "Your DNA contains something we lost long ago, the connective impulse. The ability to bond, to feel, to grow. It was not supposed to activate in you, but it has. And you think you're affected by that?" "I know I am." Her markings pulsed, reflecting emotions she didn't know how to control. I reached out, slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't. When my fingertips touched her hand, a soft glow rippled through her skin. Not telepathy. Not force. Something deeper. Something warm. "You see," she whispered. "This is not supposed to happen. Our minds were engineered to suppress attachment. But with you, it breaks through." I held her hand gently. "Serenia, maybe it's not breaking. Maybe it's waking." Her breath caught softly, like the idea itself startled her. "I do not know how to feel this," she confessed. "I do not know if it is allowed." "You're not malfunctioning," I said. "You're evolving." The glow in her markings intensified, spreading across her shoulders and down her arms like a sunrise beneath her skin. She took a half-step closer, as if drawn by something she didn't fully understand. "When I look at you," she said quietly, "my mind does not want to silence the impulse. It wants to stay." I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to steady the racing in my chest. So I did the only thing that felt right. I reached up and gently brushed a strand of her shimmering hair behind her ear. I expected her to flinch. Instead, she closed her eyes, leaning into the touch with a fragility that stole the air from my lungs. But then the hologram flickered. A rumble shook the chamber. Lights dimmed. Alarms pulsed through the crystal corridors outside, soft, melodic tones that somehow felt ominous. Serenia stiffened instantly. "That is not a drill." I followed her into the hallway, heart pounding. The crystalline walls shifted from blue to red. Aurelians rushed past us, their movements swift and synchronized. "What's happening?" I asked. "Rebel faction," Serenia said. "They oppose the integration. They want the old path, no hybrids, no external influence, no emotional resurgence." "How dangerous are they?" Her expression hardened. "Very. And they do not want you alive." Before I could process that, a section of the corridor burst open in a flash of white light. 3 rebels stepped out, Aurelians, but their markings burned with a sharper glow, erratic and furious. They saw Serenia first, then me. "There," one hissed. "The contested pair." Serenia grabbed my wrist. "Run." We sprinted through the corridor as energy bolts shattered the crystalline walls around us. Serenia moved with a desperate urgency I'd never seen. She wasn't protecting me because it was her assignment, she was protecting me because she feared losing me. We reached a split in the corridor. Serenia stopped abruptly. "They will target me," she said breathlessly. "I am the one destabilizing the protocol. You must hide. I'm not leaving you." Her eyes shone with emotion so raw it felt like standing at the edge of an entirely new world. "Elias, listen to me." But she didn't finish. The rebels rounded the corner, weapons glowing. They lunged for Serenia. She pushed me back, placing herself between me and them with a protective ferocity that shattered any illusion of her emotional suppression. A blast hit her square in the chest. She crumpled to the floor, the glow along her skin flickering erratically. "Serenia." I rushed toward her, but the rebels intercepted, grabbing her limp form. "She is compromised," one of them spat. "The human has infected her mind. She must be corrected." My vision blurred with shock and rage. "Let her go." They didn't even look at me as they activated a teleportation glyph beneath their feet. Light swirled around them. Serenia's hand twitched, reaching weakly toward me. Her voice reached my mind one last time, faint, fading. "Elias, find me." And then she vanished with them. The corridor fell silent. Shattered. Empty. I stood there trembling, breathing hard, staring at the space where she had been. But the moment wasn't truly silent. Because just before her consciousness faded, she sent something else into my mind, an image, fleeting but unmistakable. A towering crystalline spire deep in the glowing forests of Aurelian. A hidden place. A dangerous place. A place where the rebels had taken her. And beneath that image, a sensation so intimate it made my heart ache. Her fear. And something else layered beneath it. Her longing for me. I steadied myself, the world shifting around me like I'd taken my first real breath since arriving on this planet. They had taken Serenia. But she wasn't lost. She had left a path in my mind. A connection. And I was going to follow it, no matter what waited for me in those glowing wilds. The path Serenia placed in my mind wasn't a single image, it was a feeling, a pull, like a quiet gravitational thread tugging me through the glowing forests of Aurelian. Every tree pulsed with soft bioluminescent light. Strange crystalline leaves shimmered like falling stars. The air vibrated with a frequency I felt more than heard, as if the planet itself breathed in long, slow rhythms. I followed the thread without hesitation. Fear should have slowed me, but instead it sharpened something inside me, something I didn't know I had. Every step I took made the connection between us intensify. I felt flickers of her consciousness, pain, confusion, but also something that kept surprising me, hope. She was waiting for me. Not just hoping I'd find her, but believing I would. Hours passed. Or maybe only minutes. Time here was fluid, elastic, tied to the light cycles of the planet rather than the ticking of a human clock. Eventually the forest opened into a vast clearing dominated by a towering crystalline structure, the spire Serenia had shown me. It rose into the sky like a shard of a fallen star, humming with deep, resonant power. As I stepped closer, the ground glowed beneath my feet, reacting to my presence. The air thickened. My heartbeat synced with the rhythmic pulse of the crystal. The entire spire seemed alive. Listening. Waiting. And then I heard her. Not a sound, more like a trembling whisper inside my mind. "Elias." Her voice was faint, frayed at the edges, but it was her. That was enough. Inside the spire, the chambers were dim and cold. The rebels had abandoned subtlety, their markings scorched the walls with chaotic bursts of light. I followed the flicker of Serenia's presence deeper and deeper until I reached a chamber at the core of the structure, round, vast, its floor etched with energy symbols. She was there. Serenia lay at the center, her body still, her glow weak and flickering like a heartbeat lost in a storm. Her eyes were half open, unfocused. Crystal restraints wrapped gently around her wrists and ankles, not violent, but firm, designed to suppress her abilities. As I ran to her, a voice echoed from the shadows. "You should not have come." 3 rebels emerged from the darkness, the same ones who had taken her. Their expressions were cold, their markings bright like sharp neon lines. "You endangered our future," one said. Her emotions have corrupted the integration system. She has fallen into attachment, another added. A forbidden flaw. I stood between them and Serenia, my pulse shaking the floor beneath me. She didn't fall into anything. She evolved. And you're too afraid to admit it. The leader stepped forward. You do not understand our nature. Emotion destroys us. It fractures our unity. We have lived thousands of years in balance because we learned to silence it. That silence is why your species is dying, I said. You've cut out the very thing that makes life continue. He raised a luminous hand, powering an energy bolt. You and the one who bonded with you must be corrected. But before he could strike, the entire room trembled. A deep note resonated through the crystal walls. Light surged from the floor to the ceiling like the chamber itself had awakened. The rebels froze. Serenia's eyes snapped fully open. Her voice filled the air, not telepathically this time, but aloud, with raw, fragile emotion she had never allowed herself to show. Do not touch him. The restraints shattered. Light burst outward from Serenia's body, not violent, but powerful, steady, warm. The glow spread across the chamber, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. The rebels staggered, disoriented. Their own markings flickered, destabilized by the surge in the air. Serenia rose to her feet, still trembling but resolute. Her silver hair floated as if lifted by unseen wind. She stepped toward me, her hand reaching gently for mine. When our fingers touched, the chamber responded instantly. Energy spiraled around us, forming a swirling cocoon of pale blue light. The rebels tried to advance, but each step they took pushed them back, the energy rejecting them like a tide. This is impossible, the leader gasped. Your kind lost the ability to bond. It was erased from our structure. Serenia squeezed my hand, and for the first time, she smiled a small, trembling smile full of wonder. It was not erased, she whispered. It was dormant. Waiting. And he woke it. The chamber pulsed brighter, enveloping us in warmth. The rebels were forced to retreat, their forms dissolving into streaks of light as the spire's energy expelled them. The moment they vanished, the chamber dimmed again, calm, quiet, safe. Serenia leaned into me, exhaustion softening her features. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her gently. She rested her forehead against my chest, her breathing steady but fragile. I feared I would lose you, she murmured. I have never feared anything before. I held her closer. I'm here. I followed what you showed me. You followed what your heart told you, she whispered. And I followed mine. We stayed like that for a long moment, surrounded by the soft hum of the spire. No words. Just connection, pure, warm, quiet connection that felt older than both of us. Eventually she pulled back and touched my cheek with a tenderness she once believed she wasn't capable of. Her markings glowed brighter, steady and strong, as if they'd finally aligned with something true. You have changed me, she said. You have changed my species. They will feel again. They will grow again. And you? I asked. She smiled softly. I am no longer afraid of what I feel. And I am no longer alone in it. When we left the spire, the forest greeted us with shimmering waves of light. 2 moons hung low in the sky, casting silver over everything. Serenia walked beside me, her hand warm in mine, each step sinking with a sense of beginnings rather than endings. The council would change. The rebels would reform. The entire planet would shift, slowly but surely. But none of it felt impossible anymore. Because someone had to be the first to feel again, and Serenia had chosen to be that someone. At the edge of the forest, she stopped and turned to me. In the beginning, she said softly, our ancestors believed that connection was the force that shaped the stars. Perhaps they were right. I brushed my thumb along her glowing cheek. If connection shapes worlds, then what we have might save one. Her eyes glowed brighter at that. And as she leaned her forehead gently against mine, the 2 moons rose higher, illuminating us in their silver light, 2 beings from different worlds, tied together not by fate, not by duty, but by something far more powerful. Something reborn. Something the Aurelians had forgotten. Something we had rediscovered together. Love.